Great work, everybody. We made it out of January finally. It's the ShopNotes Podcast. This is episode number 261. I'm Phil Huber, your host, along with Logan Whitmer and John Doyle, a triumvirate of folk that form the backbone of the Woodsmith Shop TV show. Here to talk about woodworking updates going on here at Woodsmith and popular woodworking and all kinds of stuff. So let's get it started. All right, as always, if you want to get in contact with us, you can leave us a comment on our ShopNotes Podcast YouTube channel, where you can also subscribe. And again, just as every podcast does, we are going to ask for ratings and reviews on your podcast platform in order for other people to hear about the podcast and spread the love, share the conversation. Big group hug with all the woodworkers out there. I thought today's episode, being close on the heels of recording another episode, so I don't have a ton of comments to share, is to talk about the concept of adaptation, which is both narrow and broad at the same time. Here's where I'm starting off with it, though. Yesterday, we started filming a new episode for the TV show, season 20, clipping right along. And the episode that we're filming, I'll put a link to the plan on Woodsmith Plans, but it's this one. It's a double porch rocker that we did a number of years ago. It's kind of a cool project. The original one was made out of cypress, and we thought we'd stick with that. But here's where the adaptation comes in two ways. First of all, is that a double porch rocker is super cool, but also a lot longer to construct on a TV show episode. So step one, what we did is instead of doing the double wide, we're doing like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like a button and a half. Yeah.
Single wide.
A single wide, yeah.
Yeah.
So not quite just like a normal rocker, a little extra wide, but the comfort rocker.
Yep. Room for some throw pillows.
There you go. Reason being that that's going to be a little bit more manageable for us to build in a short amount of time. But then also was a way to show how relatively easy it is to adapt a plan. Like once you have all the fixed structure of it, you can riff on that relatively easily. Because I think you were the one, Logan, that had proposed doing this as the big boy rocker.
I think John probably said, are we building it the full size or are we building it single wide or something like that? And I'm like, just make a big boy rocker. Like,
right.
You know, enough that you can still get your arms on it without having to do, spread eagle on it. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anybody I want to sit on a porch and rock with. So,
right. That's like when you have a love seat in your house. Is like, when you have company over, is like any two people just sit next to each other on a love seat?
Right.
I mean, it's just kind of a little bit more room to spread out than a chair, but I don't know that two people are actually going to squeeze in there.
I mean, really only chairs are fully occupied, because even a sofa, a 3-cushion sofa, is never going to hold 3 people really.
Right.
Unless it's like little kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like I've kind of made my design career out of riffing on other projects, because it's like, design a dresser. You know what? Let's just shrink it down and make a nightstand for the next issue. Copy and paste.
Right.
Yeah. Which is funny. That's exactly what I'm doing with this outfeed table. It's like workbench design and outfeed table.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and that's exactly why I wanted to talk about it in this episode, is because there are very many facets to it. It can be like, for example, like you could have taken this porch rocker. We called it a porch rocker. We made it out of cypress because it's a nice, durable outdoor material. But you make this out of walnut, cherry, white oak, and you've instantly changed the flavor of what this looks like. You shrink it up to just a single wide or single wide plus, and now you have a totally different project without really changing a lot in order to do that. About the only thing that we're going to be having to pay attention to is when you start lopping off at certain dimensions, like making sure that you're keeping slat spacing equal, because you don't want to have to like all of a sudden redo all the math on the slats, but it's just one of those things. So like your outfeed table, Logan, like you have a design language already established in that workbench.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like, because of the way that construction works, it's so easy just to scale it. Like you're building bents, and then, those bents are a certain length and height. And then you're adding rails to basically make cubbies that are either a drawer cubby or a door cubby or, whatever. So like super easy, super simple. Yeah, it's going to work out really well.
Yeah. Because I mean, let's trace this back, in the, progression of evolution. Like I think some of the same structural DNA is in your grill stand that you did.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which is funny. And I think you can probably like distill that down to, it's just a strong, simple construction method.
Right.
And it is also a design aesthetic. That grill stand I did, man, years ago. Oh God, 5-6 years ago, I probably did. The outdoor kitchen. And then, the, workbench, when Stephen Bunn designed that, he designed it based on a, like timber frame building bent, right? So like if you were in a building that was timber frame, you'd have 5 or 6 of these bents every 8 foot, that would, or 10 foot that would support the structure. So it's a good looking design. It's easy construction. It is strong, and it's very quick. So
yeah. And adaptable in the sense that, you change up the length of the rails and all of a sudden your spacing between those bents or whatever dictate what you're using it for or what goes inside of it.
Yep. Yeah. So it's kind of a shop-made modular system.
Right. Which in a way is pretty familiar to some of the pre-made steel framed kind of carts that are out there, because your current outfeed table is based off of a Craig table system, right? Which is a series of legs and then interchangeable variable length rails that just get bolted in between them. And you're just doing like a wood version of that.
Yep. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, same thing if you look at like some of the like steel carports, right? Like those are literally just a triangular frame that for different lengths, they just add different sections, or different widths. They just get a little bit wider. Like, I mean, yeah, the entire thing is super simple, adaptable. So
have you decided materials yet? You were showing a couple
I actually need to go pick up lumber today after we're done podcasting. I am going to, so the workbench was cherry, and it was cherry. I glued all that cherry up because it's 2 3/4 square on the bent pieces. The rails, stiles, legs, all that stuff are 2 3/4 square. So I glued all those up out of cherry. I'm doing this out of poplar. I'm going to do poplar. Liberty Hardwood carries 12/4 poplar, so don't need to do anything to it. other than run it through the planer. Don't have to glue it up, which is honestly, that was the most time for that entire project, was gluing stuff up. So this will be very much a lop it to length, join it, plane it. And then I'm going to see about doing a fairly heavy, I guess I don't know. One of the things I like about the workbench design is that it's big mortise and tenons, and then they're pegged. So they have 1/4-inch walnut dowels in each joint. And I love that aesthetics, but that's cherry with a walnut peg. I do that on a lot of my shaker stuff. I just like the looks of it. Obviously painting this, I'm not going to have that aesthetic. So either I run big tenons, and mortises, or I just do slot mortises, which is kind of the way I'm going with it. Is I'm thinking maybe I just do slot mortises, and I can run all the joinery with bench pilot using Shaper Origin and bench pilot. So I set up one file to do mortises, one file to do tenon, or one file just to do the slot mortises, and then I'm just changing the position on that depending where it goes. Could also do this with Panto router, which is how I did the mortise tenons on the last one. And that works really well, especially with the new bits I have from woodpeckers that are like a variable flute angle. They work really well for those deep, long mortises and tenons. However, I'm going to do a lot of the work on this, I think, next week when Colin is here in town. So he's going to be building a project, kind of shooting photos and stuff. So I'm going to be bouncing back and forth. And if I can just bounce back and forth and restart another tenon or slot mortise in bench pilot and just keep plugging parts out, heck yeah, I think I'm going to do that.
All right.
So.
All right, John, you had mentioned, you built a career off of being a little bit of a magpie for design things.
Yeah.
Why don't let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's look at it in terms of two different semi-recent projects, in that you did a dresser to start with, and then shop-wise, you did a shop organizer system that then also turned into several iterations as well.
Yes. Yeah, starting with the shop organizer, what I can think of is the clamp cart that we just did. And it's kind of a combination of the shop organizer that I designed and the clamp cart that we've had in the studio for quite a while, and kind of just took what we liked about both of them and combined, design aspects and put it on wheels and went from there, I guess. So it's kind of like taking known quantities of the things that we like from those two different projects, combined them, and made a new project. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think even the workbench from the new one wall system kind of shares some parts from that, right?
Yeah. So for that project, we were doing a new one wall workshop. So it took some parts from the previous one wall workshop we had, the workbenches that were in there. And then as I was building it and kind of filling out cubbies, it was like, oh, well, I liked the organizers that I used in that clamp cart and the organizer. So I put those made two workbenches. One of them had drawers and doors. And then the other one, I kind of showed it a different way with different organizers. And so that kind of carried through 3 different projects there as far as shop organization. But
yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, I don't know if it's out of laziness or just being exposed to a lot of ShopNotes and Woodsmith projects, of like kind of taking the known quantities of stuff we've done in the past. It's like, okay, I know this works. We built it to this size. I liked that size. So kind of starting from those points and coming up with something new. So
Yeah. And then you did that. So now talk a little bit about the furniture aspect of it for this most recent bedroom set.
right, I can't remember where that one started. I think with the dresser.
Yeah, was that the double dresser version, or was it a tall one?
No, I think that the most recent one was was a shorter dresser, had 2 banks of drawers.
Yeah.
Built it kind of like dressed up plywood type of thing, simple construction. And then from there, to continue with that suite to make the nightstand matching. I believe I just shrunk it down to 1 bank of drawers, same general construction. I don't remember if I had to make it taller or shorter, but I mean, it was basically
a little shorter.
Is it a little shorter?
Yeah, it's all at my house. So
is it?
I know.
There you go. So just kind of following the same design aspects and whatnot there to kind of finish out the bedroom suite. So I'm also reminded of, I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to lift up my camera. There's a sliding barn door cabinet back there.
Oh,
I designed a while ago. That was based off of, I don't remember what season was. One of the earlier seasons of the Woodsmith shop, we built I don't know if it was like a contemporary modern credenza. It was ash. Had doors on the side. Very simple.
Yep. Right.
Like late 90s, early 2000s design. And for that sliding barn door cabinet, I kind of just took that general design and size of that. Because with the barn door cabinet, the main thing is I wanted to build my own sliding barn door hardware just because I found it expensive and just ridiculous. So I was like, I'm going to build that myself. So I had to design a piece of furniture to go with that theme. So I took that credenza, changed materials from ash to painted and Douglas fir top. I think I changed out like some of the areas to drawers and then added the sliding doors instead of the glass doors that were on the credenza. But it's basically the same size and shape and general construction. But like you said, kind of changing out wood types and finishing types and hardware. It can make it a whole different furniture style and project.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is that cheating? I don't know. Maybe, but it's like just taking stuff, and I don't know if that helps the editors and people writing that the kind of or the artists have a jumping off point of like, hey, this is how we showed it in the past, so I know it works in the Woodsmith world. Now I've changed these things. These are some new techniques to talk about. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's cheating. I think what it does is, for a lot of people, kind of cracks the design code on it, in the sense that it's really easy to think of a designer as some kind of almost type of personality that not everybody is. So design can feel intimidating, really hard for people to do when described in the way that you guys have both just described it. It's more like building blocks. Like, hey, this is the pile of Legos that I have. I can make a ton of stuff from it. They don't all look the same, but they're related because of it. Or there's like I'm a writer, so like a grammar, knowing how sentences get put together, help you put together original sentences in that same way.
Yeah. And I guess that's true with any designer or artist or writer or songwriter. They all have had their inspirations kind of before that they've built off of. It's not like they're inventing from ground zero. So I guess there's all these inspirations that you kind of take in, And when I'm looking at projects in, magazines or anywhere, they might not be like my style or something that I would like, but I can always take something like a technique or something from that project and be like, oh, I kind of like that. I could use that, someplace else. And I would hope our readers would be the same way, that, we don't design there's no project that everyone likes. There's,
Yeah.
some people really like them, some people don't, but you can always take something from that and change it to something you would prefer, I guess.
Yeah.
Is my hope.
I think where the skill comes, and this maybe is just a matter of either patience or practice, is knowing how to combine different elements in a way that ends up working. Mm-hmm. Because you can just pile on a bunch of stuff together and it doesn't feel like they're all working together. I'm going to compare it to the Dallas Cowboys in the sense that there are football teams that work together as a team, and then there are other teams that are just groups of players that happen to be on the field at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that there's a large, you're talking about looking at things and pulling design aspects from stuff you've designed in the past. And I don't think it's even necessarily the stuff that you've designed. It's a lot of it that I start pulling when I start putting a design. If I do put a design together from scratch, I start pulling stuff from stuff I've built in the past. So stuff I know how this goes together because I've built this. And, obviously we're looking at a lot of magazine stuff, but anybody in their shop, I think, could say, hey, I've built these projects, whether they were from plans from, Woodsmith or Popwood or Fine Woodworking or whatever. And you could say, okay, I see how this face frame was attached here and I see how this case was constructed. So let's use those principles for this project. And then stuff starts to fall into place. And then at that point, all you're really looking at is design choices like proportions, not necessarily construction methods.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that because, launching into something that you've never built before, all of it's new.
Mm-hmm.
But if you launch into a new project, but you have a confidence level in constructing the post and beam bent sort of thing, then you can jump off from there riffing on that and not have to worry. You just have that confidence knowing I can do this part.
Mm-hmm.
So the number of new things, so to speak, in a new project can be relatively small.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is funny, looking at this from the outside, I have known people that went to school for industrial design and they ended up in the woodworking space. And I think it's funny because, the way I just presented it is you've figured out how this case construction was put together, how this face frame was attached, how this face frame was put together, all that stuff. And then you're designing proportions, or that's what you are then designing, is the proportions and the design choices, where all those industrial designers are vice versa. They know how they want it to look, but then the construction becomes secondary, which I think is funny. It's hey, I designed this really cool chair, but you can't really build it because stuff doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Speaking of recent projects and related to the TV show, and it doesn't have to be big changes either that make a difference. The first episode that we were working on this year is the vanity for your bathroom in the shop.
Yep.
And that was a shaker project from Workbench magazine that we had long ago. And even there, we ended up making changes on it, even though if you were to show a photo of it, it's not super obvious what those changes were.
Correct. Yeah.
I think, what did we end up? We made it shorter in length by 6 inches or something like that, or 8 inches.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, something along those lines, just to fit it inside of the space.
Yeah. And then taking a shaker project that was made out of cherry and then making it out of that olive ash really transformed the look of it as well.
Yeah.
Even though structurally you wouldn't notice hardly any difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about changing wood and finishes on projects, making them look different. I'm always amazed, or maybe it's readers that are amazed. They look at our projects like, oh, how do you make them look so great? And it's always in the past we've gotten, picked through all the wood for color and grain, and then like picked through those to like get all the straightest grain on like stiles and rails. And it looks so much different than if somebody just went to Menards and grabbed red oak, plain sawn red oak, and just, used whatever wild grain on throughout the project. And can look totally different than same wood, but just being more deliberate on grain patterns, I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like if you build something, if you build a credenza out of walnut and you change out, standard plain sawn walnut for straight grain quarter sawn stuff, you immediately go from 70s terrible shag carpet era to 50s mid-century. Like with pretty much exactly the same construction and design. It's just changing the wood grain, and your selection in the wood will change the entire aesthetic. Just the way that, like, as soon as you see knotty pine cabinets, you think of a cabin up in Minnesota, right? Yeah. Just kind of is what it is. It gives you the feels.
Right. Yeah. But if you take that same cabinet and make it out of clear pine or redwood or something like that, no knots, then all of a sudden you've transformed the look of it without, functionally changing anything on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing about that double wide rocker in building it is that we changed up the order of construction on it too. In that when we put together a project in the magazine, we're trying to do so in a way that makes logical sense for construction, also makes logical sense for the layout, so that you're not flipping back and forth between different pages trying to figure out what part comes next and how it all relates together. But that said, that doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it. Like in this the double porch rocker, when we were looking at the initial construction of it, we ended up going in a slightly different direction, in the sense that you're the first segment on it, Logan. So you ended up building the sides or the ends of the rocker as units first.
Yeah. Which, I mean, coming from this side of the fence, where on the inside of the magazine, and we're putting together and crafting this article and story on how people are putting this project together, like, there is definitely some of the, like, okay, we have to change it this way to make sure it flows right for the article or whatever. But that may not necessarily be the way that you'd build it in your shop. Like this rocker, and it's a little different than standard chairs. Standard chairs, you would do a seat and then an undercarriage and then do a backrest and whatever. But like this one, I think the plans have you like putting together like the seat section as like an entire unit, and then that comes together with like the legs and the back and like the whole thing. Like, and I get it, but the whole thing felt a little weird. Like, I'm like, especially if we're not trying to now fit this into magazine and a plan workflow. We're trying to fit this into a TV show episode with two guys.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, how do you break that up without, being weird about it? So it's like, okay, yeah, there's no reason you can't put these sides together and then kind of sandwich the entire thing together. And I think that's how a lot of us would build it. So, yeah.
Yeah, they showed it kind of building it outside in or inside out.
Yes.
Where we're building it outside in.
Yes.
And some of those choices are made to fit it into the magazine, and it's just like, oh, this process shows well on the pages of magazine, and there's no real reason for it. But then we've also found when we're building stuff like this and we go off the rails and it's like, we get halfway done. It's like, oh, that's why they did it that way. And it's like,
and there's certainly some of that where it's like, okay, this doesn't make sense to build this way, but you have to because XYZ reason, right? Like you have to put it together like this to get this part of this thing to fit together like it should. Sometimes that's not the case, but sometimes it is.
Right. Yeah. And then there's a lot of times where we've designed something and handed it off to the artists or editors, and they're like, well, why did you do it this way? It's like, I don't know. I had to do it some way. It's like, it didn't really matter. It didn't have to be that size. That's just what it was. So sometimes there's not a reason. But.
Well, and I think it's funny that there is definitely nobody has, like, across the woodworking community as a whole, there's not a standard way to do things at all. And I think everybody's perception and how they approach a build is a little different. And some of those, I was looking at the plans and it's like, I feel like I know who did all the illustrations on this because all the dimensions are in weird spots. They're not wrong. Right. It gives you the info. It's just not how I would lay it out. Which is funny. It's like one of those, and going back to, my Woodsmith days, or it's like, okay, I'm working with this illustrator. Like, I know I'm going to have to change these dimensions because, man, that is a weird way to dimension that hole. And I don't know if he does it the same way. Dylan in his CAD drawings, a lot of times will dimension holes as radius instead of diameters. So he'll do, this is a 1/4-inch radius hole. I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to use a 1/2-inch diameter bit to do that.
Or dimensioning from the side of a hole.
Yes, instead of the center point. Yeah, it's like, come on.
I'm not going to drill a hole that way.
But I mean, is it wrong? Yeah. Not necessarily. Like the info's there. Yeah. It's there, and you can
figure it out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like loading a dishwasher. Everybody's got their way of doing it, and everybody else
is a wrong way to load a dishwasher, John. At least my wife would tell me there was a wrong way to load the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Does it count as loading the dishwasher if your wife comes in and rearranges it after you're done?
Yeah. You're just making more work. Just leave it all in the sink.
Yep.
It's easier that way.
Yeah, you either just do it or you let somebody else do it, but don't combine two styles because that's never going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point of some of what we're saying here is, like you were saying, Logan, that there's multiple ways to do it, and the right way for you is a function of how your brain works, how your shop is set up, what tools you plan on using, and that kind of thing, rather than whatever. So, you and John could build the same shop cart in your shops and start and go through the whole process in very different ways and still come out with more or less an identical product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even if we were building from the same plan.
Right.
Yeah. Could come out totally different.
Well, because neither one of us are going to read it. We're just going to look at the pictures.
Right. It's like, there's a picture. There's where I start from. This is the overall size.
Yeah.
Go from there.
Well, it's funny, like going back to the outfeed table that we just built, shop cart. We're using it as outfeed table. I don't remember what we were doing. I was doing something on the case, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Why? Oh, I think it was the dados for
the side panels.
The side panels. Somehow I just stuck them in the wrong spot. Like, I don't know. I was talking and, whatever, doing stuff. So I cut them in the wrong spot. So we made it work because we just, the hardwood edging that was going on this project was like sized at like 1.5 by 1.5 inches. So instead of doing that, we just made it 1/2 inch edging, 1/2 inch by 1.5.
Which is probably easier and better.
It's like, why would you ever make you're putting a 2x4 on the edge as edging?
Yeah.
Like, that seems silly, but is it wrong? No, just a different way to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny because talking to our designers and when they design stuff like this, a lot of the times, like, there's actually a reason for some of it. Not always, but sometimes there is. It's like, well, yeah, I made it this size because then you can get everything out of one sheet of plywood. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense instead of buying another sheet of plywood.
Yeah.
But there's never an excuse for using every size of plywood on a drawer. Every single size.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I guess that does come into thought on design. It's like, well, I don't want to get another thickness of plywood for this project, so I'll just use this, or another, change the thickness of the hardwood, so I'll just keep going with this. And it's like, does it matter? I mean, if you want to go to the effort to plane it from 1/2 inch to 3/8, yeah, that's fine. But I'm just trying to make it easier on the artists here.
Yeah, which, just, this is evolving into a what grinds my chisel segment. Always annoyed me when we were doing our cutting diagrams for Woodsmith in one of our Woodsmith plans, where it's like 3/4 inch by 6 inch by 96 inch, 3/8 by 4 inch by, like, nobody's buying 3/8 inch thick hardwood. You're buying 4/4 hardwood and you're planing it down.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, I get it. At the same time, I'm like, this is dumb.
Right. Or if it called for 8/4 someplace, and it's like, well, I just would have resawed that scrap piece
Exactly.
to make these small pieces. I wouldn't have went out and bought smaller. So,
Which is exactly what I was thinking of when we were going through this thing with the edging, because I know how that went down is that if you're calling that out, Chris used 1.5 inch material on that cart for those big, like, face frame pieces.
Just keep it at 1.5 inch. Yeah.
Keep it at 1.5 inch, because if you were to change it to 1/2 inch edging, even though it's 1.5 inch wide, it's not 1.5 inch thick to certain editors. It's 1/2 inch thick. So then you have to call it out as 1/2 inch material instead of, and it's like, yeah, I know what you're saying, but if I take 1.5 inch thick board and rip off 1/2 inch wide strips, boom.
It's, oh man. Yeah.
All this to say is that if you've been involved with woodworking or woodworking publishing, you have had your hackles raised multiple times. Stuff drives you crazy.
You know who couldn't plane that stuff down? ShopSmith users. There's no printer attachment. We're back, and we're back.
Yeah,
they just healed. They just healed.
yeah.
And then you're sending them right back to the hospital.
Oh, man.
Dang.
They could resaw it, but man, they could not plane it down.
Break out the hand plane, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, so you said Colin's coming down next week. What's he working on?
He's working on as kind of is his flavor, a mid-century, let's call it like sofa side table.
Okay.
It is a little, so he's done this little cantilevered design for a few of his things in the past. He did a nightstand that had a little kind of 7 shaped leg and arm on it with a little kickstand off the back.
Right.
He's going to do a side table that is similar to that design. So a little kind of 7 shaped leg on it, but there's a magazine rack on the bottom. So kind of kicking it back to old school magazine holder next to the table. So yeah, that's what we're going to work on. Should be a pretty simple project. Last time we did one of these for him on that nightstand in particular, the joint between the leg and the arm was a half lap. And it was a half lap that he ended up cutting at the miter saw. So it was like a bunch of kerfs and then kind of slide it left and right to kerf it. And the tapers, because they're both the arm and the leg are tapered. So from the widest point at the junction of them down to, smaller feet. We did that at the table saw with a taper sled, or taper jig. So this time we're going to kind of break this out a little bit further and do some template routing. So you bandsaw and template route to get those to the appropriate size. And we are going to try to anger the masses and just use a domino to do the joint. So he was questioning the joint, like, should we half lap it? Should we domino it? I was like, let's just domino it. And, for all those people that are like, you're using $1,000 tool to do that. It's like, well, yeah, you have a General International doweling jig. You can just dowel it together. Like, there's no reason you have to domino it. I mean, geez, to be honest with you, you could probably biscuit it together and it would probably be fine. So
you can make your own domino. We have the plans from ShopNotes.
We do.
Right.
So
yeah.
Stop complaining.
Yeah. This
project, Popwood's not for the pores. Is what Logan's saying.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, I think he's also been really liking this kind of floating top look to a lot of things. So using some like brass standoffs. So he did that on a little record stand we did, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. So yeah, that's what he's going to be working on. Do a little template routing, a little bit. I don't think we're going to have to do any resawing of anything. We'll use some thin walnut, some non-popcorn walnut. Sometimes you have that piece of wood that just does not want to cooperate.
Yeah, I had asked Logan for some walnut to make a birthday gift, and we were out at his place filming. Backstory here, and it is winter in Iowa, which means that the relative humidity practically anywhere is almost in negative numbers. Mm-hmm. And pulled out a piece of 2-inch thick walnut that had been air drying long enough.
Oh yeah, 2 years for sure.
And then I brought it here into the video studio and started cutting it into pieces that I needed. And in between that, I was doing some stuff here at my desk. And all of a sudden I hear this like dink, ping. And the walnut had started end checking, and like some cracks in it just popped open.
Like we'd be sitting in the studio yesterday after Phil had broken this down into, I don't know, 18-inch pieces or so.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you just hear pop. And it was like ice cracking. If anybody's ever been ice fishing and you're sitting on the ice and you just hear these random pops and cracks, that's exactly what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Which was crazy. And it was on the higher side of moisture for air dried. Usually here I get, 14 to 15% is a good air dried, walnut. This was at 16, 17. So not like it was it's not like it was soaking wet by any means. And I just pulled up the humidity here because we talked about it. It's been out in the non-climate controlled side of my shop, which should be fairly dry out there. It does say our humidity today outside is 68%, the Weather Channel. So maybe it's not as dry as I thought it was, and then going inside is drier. I don't know. It was bizarre. I've never seen that. And it was popping apart like that board just had a boatload of tension in it.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe it had case hardened somehow. Generally, you don't get that with air drying walnut.
Air dried, yeah.
I mean, you get it with air dried white oak will absolutely case harden. If it sits in the sun, it will case harden. But usually walnut does not. So I don't know. So
yeah,
we're gonna flex on the chunk of trunk extended warranty on that one. Love it, or we'll buy it back.
Yeah, the other half of that board is still here in the shop. The part that I had cut up is now in the BTU conversion program.
Yes.
So I have the other half here. I think I'm going to leave that till next week before I try and cut that apart into different lengths to see if that changes anything or if that one starts popping and cracking as well. So keep you posted there. All right, John, other than TV show projects, you got another magazine project you're working on?
Probably something I should be working on, but we're at the end of the issue here, so we got readers' tips there coming up next week. Yep. So that, and probably need to look at what I'm supposed to have to mark in the shop for next issue here soon before he asks.
Yeah.
But yeah, mainly just chugging along on TV show stuff right now.
Okay. All right, there you have it. That's another episode of the ShopNotes Podcast. Love to hear your questions, comments, and smart remarks. Maybe some stories that you have about adapting furniture designs to suit your needs. Or if you've built a number of projects that all use kind of a similar design structure or language, love to hear that as well. Send us photos. You can do that to Woodsmith at woodsmith.com or leave a comment on the ShopNotes Podcast YouTube channel, and we'll read those out in a future episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.